Hi, my name's Jameis. I'm a network engineer, and today we're going to be installing Juniper vMX inside of GNS3. I'm using the newer version of Juniper vMX. You can get the vMX evaluation from Juniper's website at the link above, and I'll include it in the description. You will have to create an account. I had some issues with mine where initially when I would try to download this, I would be told I didn't have permissions, but I called into their support line. They helped me open a ticket. And they were able to resolve that. It looks like I can no longer download it, but I have downloaded it. So once you get that resolved, you want to come back here, and I think you have to open supports via email. I don't quite remember. You have to come over here. You want to download this KVM package. Once you get this KVM package downloaded on your machine, this is what it's going to look like. It's going to have 4 files. These are going to be the 4 files we're going to need to install in GNS3. So with that out of the way, let's go ahead and do it. I have GNS3 open down here. Let's create a new project. Alright. So we've created a new project there. Just for me, I like seeing the grid, and I like it when things snap to the grid. So we ordered a new template. We're going to install it on the GNS3 server. For anybody who's wondering, I'm not running the GNS3 VM. I'm running a GNS3 server. It's Ubuntu. It's running on Proxmox. My previous videos about how I set that up, if you're interested in looking at it. But we're going to come here to filter, and we'll just type in VMX. And we'll see VMX, VCP, and VMX VFP. The VMX is a standalone VMX. I think it runs Junos version 14, while the VCP and VFP, it's a 2-part system. So the modern VMX is broken into 2 virtual machines, a forwarding plane virtual machine and a control plane virtual machine. You can run the standalone, however, the newer ones have newer features, and if you're working with production equipment, it's usually on par. So we're going to go ahead and install the VCP and the VFP. So we're going to start with the control plane. We go to install. I'm going to install it on the main server. If you're using this on the VM or something else like that, you don't have to do it like this. You can change that. It's going to be QEMU. We're going to look for the application version. So the version that we download from this Juniper site is actually 18.2, and GNS3 does not include 18.2 as an option down in here. I'm not entirely sure why, but that doesn't really seem to be an issue. So what we need to do is we need to select Allow Custom Files, and for the Junos vMX file, we're going to import this from everything we downloaded earlier. So we go to Downloads. We're going to go to VMX. We're going to select the VMX file we downloaded from Juniper. All these are included in the same file when you download it. It's going to select that, and that's going to go ahead and import it. That usually takes about a minute. It'll give you an error about the MD5, which should be expected because this is a different version than 22R1. I think this is 18.2R.1.9. But it'll work. So we'll just go ahead and let that upload. And we're also going to repeat the process for the 2 other items in here for this VMX HDD.img and this file as well. I've never seen it run entirely this slow, so I think this has to do with the fact that I'm using a remote server. It's about 20 miles from where I am right now. And yeah, my OpenVPN client is not extremely powerful. So I'm just going to let this run in the background, and I'll skip until when it's done. Once it's done uploading, you'll see Find on the main server on the right hand side. And we have to do that for all 3 of these files. I paused that one. That took a significant amount of time. But I'm going to go ahead and do these last 2 in real time. So this is this file, vmx HDD img, and that's going to go ahead and upload. So while we're waiting for this upload, I'm going to take a second to explain. So the current VMX is broken into two parts. There is a virtual control plane and a virtual forwarding plane. The virtual forwarding plane handles the actual routing, so where the forwarding table is, and any packet that comes in goes to the virtual forwarding plane and goes back out on the other side. The control plane handles all of your protocols. It'll handle ICMP responses. It'll handle BGP, OSPF, RIP, ISIS. It handles all of your routing protocols. It also has the routing information base, and it's what selects. So not all routes are in the forwarding table, but all routes are in the routing information base. These virtual machines are broken up into two because it's an easier better use of resources. I'm not entirely sure why, but that is why it is the way it is. And they communicate to each other using the EM1 interface. And I'll show you that here in a few minutes when we actually go to get them up and running. Unfortunately, the VMX takes a decent amount of time to start, about 6 or 7 minutes. So that's going to be something I also skipped through, so you don't have to sit through it. So here's the metadata file. I'm going to accept that. This should be a pretty quick upload. You'll see these file sizes are a little bit different. That's okay. It's just one of those things that happens. Alright, so we're going to select it. I'm going to select next. It's going to ask us if we want to install it. We're going to say yes. It's going to give us some instructions. I'll show you how to review these instructions in a little bit so we can come back to them. So we'll hit finish. Because this is the wrong version, the only thing we really need to do is configure template. And we're just going to change the name. So this is actually version 18.2R.1.9. You don't have to do that if you don't want to, but it just makes it easier. I prefer to do that. Alright, so we've got the VMX VCP installed. Next we need to install the VFP. So we're going to do VMX VFP, install on the main server. Alright, we want to make sure we grab the same option here we did last time. Last time we grabbed 22R1, so we're going to do the same thing here. And even though this is 18.2R1, we're still going to install it right here, so it'll be okay. So we need to allow custom files. We need to import. And we need the VPC right here. We're going to go ahead and open. And that's going to start importing. This is also going to take a while, so I'm going to go ahead and pause again. And I will resume once it's done importing. Alright. Once it's done uploading the image, it'll turn green and say ready to install. We're going to hit next. We're going to tell what we want to install, and then we're going to go ahead and finish. I'm going to go ahead and change the name of this soon to reflect the same Junos version number up here. So let's do that real quick. 18.2.R1.9. And that looks correct. So that's good. Alright, we have to make a few more modifications before we're ready to actually use these. So our first our only real modification is going to be on the VMX forwarding plane. We're going to right click it, configure template. I'm going to go to network. Once we're in network, we are going to change the first port name from ethos 0 to GE-0-0-0. And we're going to repeat this file format down here. And this is going to let GNS3 automatically rename all the interfaces for us. Fortunately, we're going to have to do a little bit more than that. So we're going to have to come in here to customize. We're going to rename this first one FXP0. FXP0 is the management interface. The second one we are going to rename EM1. EM1 is the interface between the VFP and the VCP. So the rest of these are off by 1 digit, so I have to manually rename them by 1 digit, which is kind of annoying, but it's faster than naming them all entirely. So we're going to change that to a 0, that to a 1, 2, and the rest of the way on down the list. Once we get it looking like that, we are more or less ready to go. So we're just going to close out of that and hit OK. And we're going to create a new lab project. So grid and snap to grid, two features I'm rather fond of. I'm going to go ahead and create these right here. We need to have both these on the screen. We want to connect EM1 of the VMX VCP to EM1 this virtual machine. Now we're going to go ahead and cut both of them on. From this point forward, you shouldn't have to do anything with the forwarding plane. Everything's going to be console on the virtual control plane. And actually, while we're thinking about it, let's go in here and make a change to PuTTY to change the default text size. So I'm going to go to, I'm just going to go ahead and close PuTTY. Open up PuTTY, appearance, font, we're going to change that to 20, session, default settings, save, close. So now our default settings for PuTTY have been changed to size 20. And we're going to pull this out of the way for just a minute. Actually, we're just going to set this thing down. This thing's going to run for a while. So we're going to go ahead and set up 2 virtual PCs just to test functionality of this router. So we're going to take one over here and one over here. Let's go ahead and plug this one into 001 and this one into 002. I know there's a GE000 in here. I have not been able to get that one to work, but the rest of these line up. So for my labs, that hasn't been an issue. Connect both of those, and let's start them up. Let's go ahead and assign IP addresses to these. So we're going to put PC1 on 10.0.1.0/24. Going to be that network, and over here we're going to do 10.0.2.0/24. Alright, so we've defined our 2 networks. Let's go ahead and set up these virtual PCs while we're waiting. Virtual PC 1, we're going to do an IP of 10.0.1.2/24 with a default gateway of 10.0.1.1. I'm going to save that. PC2, we're going to do the same thing, but we're going to do IP 10.0.2.2/24 with a default gateway of 10.0.2.1. We're going to save that. And so what that means now is just for the respective interfaces on the Juniper, we just have to set those on there. So if we look at the vMX CP, you'll see it's right here, and it's just going to go through the loading phase. And this can take a while. This can take about 5 minutes or so. So I'm going to go ahead and pause again, and I'm going to unpause once this is done. Alright, once it's done starting up, we'll see this and we should be good to log in. The default username is root and there's no default password. This here is the FreeBSD backend. I know it's one of the BSDs, I think it's FreeBSD. Anyhow, once we get here, we do CLI, go to the command line interface, and we're going to get this nagging message here about auto image upgrade. So we have to just follow what it says and disable auto image upgrade. So we're going to do a configure. We're going to do what it says. We'll do a commit and quit. And alright, that nagging message should be gone. So let's go ahead and see if we are connected to the forwarding plane. So let's see, we're going to do a show chassis FPC0, and it looks like it's showing as online right here. We'll do a detail, and it shows us more details. So let's look at the interfaces we currently have available. And we see all of our interfaces currently populated. And you'll see where GE000 doesn't show up here. And that's why I was saying I just ignore 000 whenever I'm connecting anything to it. Actually, GE000 shows up there. Interesting. Well, that's neither here nor there. So if we go back to our lab and we turn on interfaces, we'll see I've got some plugged in GE001 and GE002. For GE001, we need to set it to 10.0.11/24, and GE002, we need to set to 10.0.21/24. So let's go ahead and do that, and then we should be able to route across this thing. So we're going to come in here, we do a configure, we're going to set interface GE-0-0-1 unit 0 family inet address 10.0.1.1/24 and set interface GE-0-0-2 unit 0 family inet address 10.0.2.1/24, and we're going to go ahead and commit. Let's show interface terse again, and here we go. GE001.0 10.0.11/24, GE002.0 10.0.21/24. So if this is all done correctly, then PC1, and we'll come back here, GNS3, PC1 should be able to ping PC2 on a different subnet using this as his IPv4 router. So let's give it a try. So we are going to ping 10.0.2.2. And as we'd expect, the first one times out and everything subsequent works. So that means that we're able to communicate through this router, through this Juniper vMX router between PC1 and PC2. One of the nice things about the Juniper vMX routers is that you can shut them down. You don't have to worry about saving configs. You turn them back on and the config comes back exactly how it was. And that's the tutorial on how to set this up. Before I leave, I'm going to take, well, not so much take a few minutes because there's not much to talk about. Troubleshooting. If your Juniper fails to boot, it probably means that your VCP and VFP images do not match, which is okay. It just means you have to go back through and reinstall them, which can be a long process depending on how you're doing it. Also, where I did a show chassis image upgrade, or a show, and I'm blanking on the command that I used. Where's this command? This command right here. You should see show chassis FPC0, and if nothing shows up, that means you're not connected. 95% of the time, this issue is because the VCP and the VFP are not connected on interface EM1, which is always going to be the second interface on these. So if you try and name another interface EM1, it won't work. It's the second interface. The way we name them is just to make it useful. My name has been Jameis. I hope you found this useful, and I look forward to posting more videos. I do some Juniper stuff. I do some Cisco stuff. I'm probably going to stick more to Juniper-based content simply because there's already a lot of great Cisco content out here, but the Juniper content on YouTube is a little bit lacking. The documentation's great, but the video content's a little bit lacking, so that's probably going to be what I'm going to gear myself towards. If you have any requests, feel free to ask. I'm personally currently doing just the Juniper routing. I haven't done any of the Juniper switching yet. Thank you for your time, and have a great day.